cannot get away from this lady, man. Good God. I'm so sick of it. Stephanie White, the Indiana Fever, man. How is she now? All of a sudden, she ain't never been a part of nothing Team USA. All of a sudden, she a part of Team USA when Caitlin Clark is there. What the is going on? Why? We just want to watch Clark play basketball. I don't like, why do Stephanie White gotta be there?
That is not excitement or enthusiasm. That is the sound of someone realizing they just walked into a situation they did not want to see. Because USA Basketball has now revealed the roster for the February 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying event in Puerto Rico. And the headline is not the player list. The headline is, who will be holding the clipboard? Yes, Caitlin Clark is on the roster. And no, her inclusion is not the controversy. The tension is coming from the coaching staff announcement that arrived with it, because it lands on top of a pattern that a lot of women's basketball fans feel they have been watching in real time. On paper, the roster reads exactly how USA Basketball usually builds these short window teams.
Oh man. Just as I was about to walk out the door, the information came out. Team USA announced its roster for the FIBA World Cup qualifying tournament next month when we go watch Caitlin Clark do what she do. We got to get into the final roster, man. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification to hype the video.
12 players mixing proven veterans with high upside names who need reps in the national team environment. You have established stars like Chelsea Gray and Kelsey Plum. You have experienced pros like Derica Hamby and Kalea Copper. Then you have the next wave getting pulled into the pipeline, including Paige Beckers, Kiki Iriafen, and Sonia Citrone, alongside Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Angel Reese. That is the formula. Blend stability with development. Win the games you are supposed to win, and use the event to prepare for the real target, the 2026 World Cup in Berlin. And that context matters, because the United States already secured its World Cup spot by winning the 2025 FIBA Women's AmeriCup. So this is not a desperation tournament. This is a controlled environment.
Do what's best for business, and she's better than them anyway. Caitlin Clark better be starting for this Team USA team. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't got time. Let's not play games. But it is going down next month. Man, this is lit. This is lit, man. USA Basketball announces roster and coaching staff for 2026 FIBA. Hold on, coaching staff. Bruh, if
a rehearsal, a chance to build chemistry and get younger players comfortable with international rules, physicality, and pace before the summer. So if the roster is predictable, why is the reaction so sharp? Because the staff is not being treated like a footnote. The head coach named is Kara Lawson of Duke, a choice that immediately split people, especially after a season where Duke carried major expectations and did not match the early rankings. But even that is not the main spark. The real heat is in the assistants. Natalie Nakase of the Golden State Valkyries is on the bench. So are Nate Tibbetts and Stephanie White of the Indiana Fever. And that is where the conversation changes. Stop right there, because the pushback is not about rotations, shot attempts, or whether a certain player should have made the 12. It is about proximity and influence. It is about who is positioned closest to the most watched guard in the sport when the stakes shift from the WNBA to USA Basketball. Because now Stephanie White is not just connected to Caitlin Clark's professional season in Indiana, she is physically present again in another national spotlight setting with another layer of prestige attached to it. And when fans see a coach repeatedly appear in the same orbit around the same star, they do not treat it as coincidence. They treat it as access. From that point of view, it does not matter whether the explanation is simple logistics, comfort, or staff availability. The perception becomes the story. People start asking why this specific pairing keeps resurfacing and what it signals about who gets the strongest voice in the room when decisions are being made behind closed doors. And here is the detail that matters. This February event is not just a game trip. It is an evaluation window. It is the kind of camp where relationships get cemented, roles get defined, and narratives get quietly shaped before the bigger roster debates begin. So when Stephanie White is listed on that staff next to Caitlin Clark again, the reaction is not random outrage. It is the fear that the same handful of decision makers and their preferred connections are tightening their grip on the pipeline. And once fans believe the pipeline is being guided by relationships as much as performance, every roster release turns into something bigger than basketball. Stephanie White is not a longtime fixture inside the USA basketball women's coaching ladder. This qualifying trip is the first time she has been placed on a senior women's staff in a formal assistant coach role for a major event. That matters because her resume is not the question. She is a proven WNBA head coach. She won WNBA Coach of the Year in 2023 with the Connecticut Sun. She has deep Midwest roots, a Purdue background, and a long history with the Indiana Fever organization across multiple eras. She also has legitimate USA basketball history as a player, including competing with the 1997 USA Jones Cup team. The reaction you saw is about timing and placement. Because at the same moment Caitlin Clark is being brought into this senior national team cycle, Stephanie White shows up on the same bench, next to the same spotlight, in the same evaluation window. Fans are reading that as more than scheduling. They are reading it as alignment. Before this USA basketball announcement, the Clark and White connection was clean and easy to explain. Indiana hired White in late 2024 to lead a franchise that needed structure, credibility, and continuity. The partnership worked in the obvious way successful coach-player pairings work. A system gets installed, roles get clarified, and a young star gets empowered to run the offense without looking over her shoulder. Now that same relationship is being pulled into a different arena, and that is where the questions start. Because USA basketball typically leans on assistants who have already been around its camps, its committees, its internal culture, and its long-term planning. Kara Lawson has been placed at the top of this group, with this event framed as part of the ramp to Puerto Rico in March. Nate Tibbetts has prior USA experience, including coaching Team USA at the 2011 Pan American Games. And the staff as a whole is being presented as a coordinated unit, preparing for March, not a random collection of names. So when Stephanie White is added to this specific staff for this specific trip, the debate stops being about whether she earned it. It becomes about why this lane opened now, why the connection overlaps now, and who benefits from that proximity once decisions move from the court to the room behind the court. And then there is Stephanie White, and this is where the timeline makes people squint. According to USA Basketball's own note, her recent touch point with the women's national team program was serving as a court coach at the April 2024 national team training camp. One camp appearance in that capacity, and now she is listed as an assistant coach for a qualifying event that actually counts. That is a leap, at least on paper. Compare that to how the pipeline usually looks for other coaches. The longtime staples tend to stack years of involvement across camps, different roles, and multiple levels of international work before they land on a staff for a meaningful competition window. Think about how someone like Cheryl Reeve became a constant presence over multiple cycles, or how coaches like Sandy Brondello spent years in the broader orbit of USA basketball and international coaching before landing prominent roles. Even the coaches who never get selected are often names the program has been evaluating for a long time. So when Stephanie White appears to move quickly right as Caitlin Clark enters the senior team environment, it creates the kind of optics that trigger suspicion. It can be completely innocent and still look messy. And in sports, optics are never a side issue. Perception is part of the product, especially when fans already feel like Caitlin Clark has been handled differently by parts of the basketball establishment. Fairly or unfairly, that sensitivity is real, which means every decision around her gets interpreted through a microscope. Now, the other piece of fuel pouring onto this is the marketing choice that came with the roster reveal. Team USA did not feature Caitlin Clark in the main promotional graphic that went out with the announcement. In a moment when women's basketball is fighting to convert attention into long-term business growth, that is a decision people are going to notice. Clark's popularity is not abstract. Her presence changes ticket demand. It changes ratings. It changes sponsorship interest. It changes how networks and platforms think about scheduling and promotion. Whether anyone likes it or not, she is a needle mover. So when the most recognizable player on the roster is not centered in the rollout, fans read it two ways. Either it is a baffling lack of marketing instinct, or it is a deliberate attempt to avoid looking like you are catering to one player. And if the goal was to avoid controversy, it did the opposite, because now people are looking for motives in every corner. But here is what actually matters beyond the staff debate and the graphic drama. This trip to San Juan in mid-March is not just a showcase. It is a pipeline checkpoint for the future of the program.
USA at the 2026 FIBA World Cup qualifying tournament in San Juan, Puerto Rico from March 11th to the 17th. USA have already qualified for the 2026 FIBA World Cup in Berlin by winning the 2025 Women's America Cup. Bring a mix of veterans and newcomers to the 16-round robin. Okay. The roster features 2024 gold medalists Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, De'Erica Hamby, and Ryan Howard.
It is a controlled environment where USA basketball can see how the next wave handles international rules, physical play, compressed preparation, and national team expectations. And the roster reflects that intention. You have multiple players positioned for major roles in the next cycle who are getting their first true competitive taste at the senior level, including Caitlin Clark, Paige Buchers, Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafen, and Angel Reese. That is the real story underneath the noise, because those names are not being tested for social media. They are being tested for what comes next. And once you see it through that lens, the coaching staff question gets even sharper, because the assistants are not just coaching games. They are helping shape the first serious evaluation chapter for the next era. That is nearly half the roster, and it tells you what USA basketball is actually doing here. This qualifying tournament in San Juan, Puerto Rico, March 11th to 17th, is being treated like a controlled development lab. The United States already secured a direct ticket to the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup by winning the 2025 FIBA Women's America Cup, so the urgency is not qualification. The urgency is preparation, chemistry, and stress testing younger talent in a real international setting before Berlin. Once you accept that context, the coaching staff choices become easier to explain on a practical level, even if the optics still land awkwardly. If you want Caitlin Clark to settle in quickly during her first senior national team competition window, there is a straightforward argument for having a coach on the bench who already speaks her basketball language. Stephanie White just spent a full season installing structure around Clark, understanding her reads, how she prefers to be coached, and what gets the best version of her without forcing the fit. From a purely functional standpoint, that is an advantage in a short tournament where practice time is limited and everything is accelerated. And the same utility logic applies across the rest of the staff. Kara Lawson is the head coach for this tournament. Natalie Nakase is on the bench as an assistant, coming off a major breakthrough year as the Golden State Valkyries head coach, including winning WNBA Coach of the Year for 2025. Nate Tibbetts is also an assistant, and USA Basketball lists him with the Phoenix Mercury. So the issue is not whether these coaches can coach. The issue is the question people keep circling because it cannot be answered in public. Would Stephanie White be on this staff for this specific event if Caitlin Clark were not on the roster? USA Basketball is never going to address that directly. Even if the true answer is boring, the silence creates space, and space creates narratives. That is why the speculation persists regardless of how well the team plays in Puerto Rico. And that is what makes the situation uncomfortable for everyone involved. Stephanie White walks into the gym with a cloud around her that she did not create, where some fans will assume she is there because of proximity instead of merit. That is unfair to her credentials, but it is the reality that timing produces. Caitlin Clark walks into the gym with her WNBA coach on the bench beside her, and that automatically changes the social geometry of a national team. If White advocates for her during staff discussions, will other players read it as favoritism? If White has to correct her sharply in front of the group, does that create a different kind of tension? If Clark struggles early, does the presence of her club coach amplify the narrative instead of reducing it? Those are dynamics that do not exist when everyone starts from the same distance. And the broader concern is what this does to the program's most valuable historical advantage. USA Basketball's women's teams have traditionally been elite at managing egos, distributing responsibility, and building short-window chemistry among stars who are used to being the #1 option in their home environments. This tournament is supposed to be a bridge to the next era, but when the staff selection itself becomes part of the story, it adds friction before the first tip.
Will serve as scout coaches. Bro, I cannot believe, bro, Sue Bird, man, this is what I'm saying, bro. Sue Bird is really a op, and like she's a op in disguise. I can see it. Sue Bird is so oppy, bro. Like, why is Kara Lawson the coach? Duke stinks. Her offense is absolute garbage in college. Bro, Duke started out as a top 10 team. Bro, they stink, bro. Don't nobody want to watch them play. How's Kara? It's a few things I got problems with. I don't know how Kara Lawson's the coach. I don't know how Stephanie White is over there. Like this whole thing is looking wacky already. But I am excited to watch Caitlin Clark play. Hopefully she gets to just play. Who knows?
That is why the debate is not going away. Even if the United States wins comfortably, the conversation will shift from results to process and from process to trust. That is exactly why USA Basketball has been able to dominate for decades. They have historically been better than everyone else at turning a roster full of stars into an actual team quickly. Clear roles, shared sacrifice, no public drama, no lingering resentment over touches, minutes, or hierarchy. But the Caitlin Clark era brings variables the program has not had to manage at this scale. She is not simply a great player who is famous within basketball. She is a mainstream sports figure. The attention around her is constant, the scrutiny is louder, and the expectations are not confined to die-hard fans anymore. That kind of spotlight changes how every decision gets interpreted, especially when the women's game is finally getting the level of cultural oxygen it has deserved for years. And the response from USA Basketball has felt inconsistent. They left her off the 2024 Olympic roster. That decision was defensible. The timing was tight, she was entering the league, and the Olympic team has always leaned toward experience and proven chemistry. Then they immediately add her to this qualifying roster, which signals recognition that she belongs in the program's present, not just its future. Then the rollout does not feature her prominently, which reads like an organization trying to avoid the perception that it is leaning too hard on one star. Then her WNBA head coach ends up on the bench with her, which reads like the organization wanting her comfortable and productive right away. Those choices may each have a rational explanation on their own, but together they create the sense of an organization responding to pressure instead of guiding the moment, reactive rather than strategic. And that is what makes people nervous, because what is coming next is bigger. The 2026 World Cup is a major global stage, and the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles will be a cultural event as much as a basketball event. Women's basketball is experiencing real growth in ratings, attendance, and commercial value. USA Basketball cannot afford to drift into every decision and then act surprised when the reaction hits. They need a coherent approach to the Caitlin Clark phenomenon that does two things at the same time: maximize her potential and comfort in the national team environment, and protect the team's internal chemistry and external credibility. That means anticipating optics, communicating clearly, and reducing avoidable controversy before it starts. So was the initial reaction overblown? Probably. Stephanie White is a qualified coach. Her resume can stand on its own, and she has earned opportunities at high levels. Awkward timing does not automatically equal something improper, and the only real scoreboard that matters in the end is performance in Puerto Rico and whether this group builds the habits and trusts that carry into the World Cup cycle. But the underlying concern is still valid, because whether the alignment is coincidence or not, the visual pattern is obvious to fans. White's national team opportunity arrives at the exact moment Clark steps into the senior program.
Try to play Paige Becker's way more than her on some secret agenda. They'll probably try to start Kelsey Plum over her and Chelsea Gray and all of this stuff. I don't know. I'm excited to try to see her play, but it seems like there might be some real obstacles in the way, man. This whole Stephanie White thing being over there just really kind of blew it for me, but it is what it is, man. We're gonna get to see the GOAT CC do her thing.
That creates a storyline USA basketball should have predicted. It did not, or it chose not to address it. Either way, the result is the same. Another avoidable controversy at the exact moment the sport is finally under a brighter mainstream spotlight. And that is the part that feels self-defeating. So here's the question that frames this whole discussion in a fair way. If you were running USA basketball, would you have added Stephanie White to this staff, knowing what the reaction would be? There is a real argument on both sides. One side says the familiarity is an asset. Short tournament, limited practice time, and having a coach who already understands Clark's reads and rhythms could help the team look sharp faster. White's credentials justify the selection, and you do not punish a coach for optics that other people choose to project. The other side says the optics are not a minor detail, they become the story, and the story becomes a distraction for the players. There were other qualified coaches who could do the job without dragging a narrative into the gym, and protecting the program's neutrality is part of protecting team chemistry. That is the trade-off. Competitive utility versus perceived credibility. And USA basketball is going to have to get better at managing both, because this will not be the last time the Caitlin Clark spotlight forces the program to choose. So here's where this story really lands. USA basketball can say all the right things. They can point to resumes. They can point to experience. They can point to the fact that winning is the only thing that matters once the ball goes up. And in a vacuum, they would be right. But this is not a vacuum anymore. Women's basketball is finally operating in a world where optics are part of the competition. Marketing is part of the competition. Trust is part of the competition. And when you make decisions that look confusing in sequence, people stop giving you the benefit of the doubt. They start filling in the blanks themselves. That's why the Stephanie White conversation will not disappear, even if Team USA goes to Puerto Rico and handles business. If they win comfortably, the critics will say the games were never the point. If they struggle, the critics will say the distraction mattered. Either way, the narrative follows them because it was created before the first practice even started. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This is exactly the kind of situation USA basketball used to avoid. They used to control the frame. They used to set the tone. They used to anticipate how things would be received and manage it before it became a headline. That's what made them untouchable for decades. Not just the talent, but the discipline. Now, with the Caitlin Clark era fully here, they're being forced to learn a new skill in real time. How to build a team, while also managing the biggest spotlight the women's game has ever seen, without making it feel like the program is bending for one player or blocking one player. That is the tightrope. And if USA basketball does not get ahead of it, the next 2 years are going to be loud. The 2026 World Cup is coming. The 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles are coming. The sport is exploding, and every decision is going to be amplified, which is why this is the moment where they have to prove something bigger than wins. They have to prove they can lead the growth era without stepping on it. So now I'm putting it to you. If you were running USA basketball, do you make the same call? Do you bring Stephanie White onto that staff knowing exactly how it would look? Do you accept the noise because the basketball value is worth it? Or do you protect the program's perception and pick a different qualified coach to keep the story off the bench? Drop your answer in the comments because I want to see how you'd play it. And if you want the next breakdown the moment this Puerto Rico tournament starts, including who gets featured, who gets minimized, and what the camera avoids showing, make sure you're locked in with Courtside Leaks. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.